Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Chapter 1 Introduction. Imagine you have a strange dream. In the dream, you are in a big city. Eggs are falling from a high building. You have a soft basket and you run around trying to catch the eggs before they hit the ground and break. But the eggs fall very fast. You run and run, but you cannot catch all of them. Many eggs hit the sidewalk. Splat. Yellow egg insides go everywhere. You feel very sad and helpless because you know you can never catch all the falling eggs. This dream tells us something important about health. For many years, doctors have been like the person catching the eggs. People get sick, and doctors try to fix the problem. They try to catch the egg after it has started falling. Sometimes they can catch it, but often it's too late and the egg breaks. This is like treating a disease after it has already started and caused problems. Think about serious diseases like heart problems or cancer. Doctors are very good at treating these problems when they happen. They can do amazing surgeries or give strong medicines. But often, the disease has been growing silently for years before it is found. Treating it late is like trying to catch the falling egg. It's difficult, and sometimes it doesn't work very well. The person might live a little longer, but they might still be sick. What if we could stop the eggs from falling in the first place? What if we could go to the top of the building and find the person throwing the eggs? Stopping the problem before it starts seems like a much better idea. This is a new way to think about our health. Instead of just waiting to get sick and then trying to get better, we can try to stop the sickness from starting. This book is about this new way. It's about how we can live not just longer, but also healthier and happier lives. Living a long time is good, but it's not the only thing. We also want to feel good and be able to do the things we enjoy for as many years as possible. Imagine living to be 100 years old, but being too sick or weak to walk, play with grandchildren, or enjoy your hobbies. That doesn't sound very good. We want more life in our years, not just more years. Doctors call this health span, the part of your life when you are healthy and active. To have a long health span, we need to think about our health differently. We need to start thinking about preventing problems long before they happen. We need a plan to stay healthy, not just a plan to fix things when they break. This book will help you understand how to make that plan. It's about playing the long game for your health. Chapter 2. What is long life? What does it mean to live a long life? Is it just reaching age 80, 90, or even 100? That's part of it, but it's not the whole story. True longevity means living a long life while also staying healthy, strong, and happy. It's about having a long health span. Think about how people used to die. A long time ago, maybe 100 or 200 years ago, many people died quite young. They died from fast death. This means things like bad infections because there were no antibiotics. Or they died from accidents like falling off a horse or getting hurt at work. Life expectancy was much shorter, maybe only 40 or 50 years. Today, things are different, especially in developed countries. We have medicines like antibiotics to fight infections. We have safer homes and jobs. So most people don't die from fast death anymore. Instead, most people today experience slow death. This means they die from diseases that develop slowly over many years. What are these slow diseases? Doctors often talk about the four horsemen of disease. These are the main killers in our modern world. They are 1. Heart disease. This includes heart attacks and strokes caused by problems with our heart and blood vessels. 2. Cancer. This is when cells in our body start growing in the wrong way and can spread. 3. Brain diseases. This includes diseases like Alzheimer's disease, which affect our memory and thinking. Doctors call these neurodegenerative diseases. 4. Diabetes type 2 and related problems. These happen when our body has trouble using sugar for energy. This is often called metabolic dysfunction. Most people living today will likely die from one or more of these four horsemen. These diseases usually start silently, many years before we feel sick. By the time we have symptoms or a doctor finds the disease, it might already be quite advanced. This sounds worrying, but there is good news. We can do things to fight these four horsemen. We can try to delay them or even prevent them from starting. How do we know this? We can look at people who live very long lives, like people who live to be 100 years old. These people are called centenarians. Scientists who study centenarians have found something interesting. These very old people don't just live longer, they often stay healthier for longer too. They usually get diseases like heart disease or cancer much later in life than most people, sometimes 20 or 30 years later. Some centenarians seem to escape these diseases almost completely. They show us that it is possible to delay or avoid the big killers. So, real longevity isn't just about adding more years to your life. It's about adding more healthy, active, and enjoyable years. It's about pushing back the four horsemen, just like the centenarians do, so we can have a longer health span. Chapter 3. A new kind of doctor. Think about the doctors you know or have visited. They are usually very good at fixing problems that happen suddenly. If you break your arm, they can set the bone. If you get a bad infection, they give you medicine to kill the germs. If you have a serious accident, they can perform surgery to save your life. This kind of medicine is very important, and it has helped many people live longer than they would have in the past. Let's call this Medicine 2.0. Medicine 2.0 is great for fast death problems, accidents, infections, sudden illnesses. But it's not always so good at dealing with the slow death diseases we talked about, like heart disease, cancer, brain diseases, and diabetes. These diseases build up slowly over many years. The problem is that Medicine 2.0 often waits until the disease is already there before it acts. It waits until you have high blood sugar to say you have diabetes. It waits until you have a heart attack to treat your heart disease seriously. It waits until a cancer is big enough to see on a scan. This is like waiting until the eggs are already falling before trying to catch them. Sometimes it's too late. We need a new way of thinking about medicine, especially for these chronic, slow diseases. Let's call this Medicine 3.0. Medicine 3.0 is different. Its main goal is prevention, stopping the disease before it even starts, or at least catching it much, much earlier. It's like going to the top of the building to stop the person throwing the eggs. How does Medicine 3.0 work? First, it focuses on prevention far more than treatment. It tries to understand why people get sick in the first place and helps them make changes early on. It's like checking the weather forecast and fixing your roof before the rain starts, instead of waiting for a leak. Second, Medicine 3.0 understands that every person is different. Medicine 2.0 often treats everyone with the same disease in the same way, based on average results from studies. But no one is perfectly average. Medicine 3.0 looks at your personal risks, your genes, your lifestyle, and helps you make a plan that is right for you. Third, Medicine 3.0 thinks differently about risk. Instead of just trying to avoid any risk, it helps you understand the risks of different choices, including the risk of doing nothing. Sometimes acting early, even if there's a small risk, is much safer than waiting until the problem gets worse. Fourth, Medicine 3.0 cares a lot about your health span, how well you live, not just how long you live. It wants you to be active, strong, and mentally sharp for as long as possible. This means paying attention to things like exercise, nutrition, sleep, and emotional well-being, things Medicine 2.0 often ignores. Imagine your health is like a big ship sailing across the ocean. Medicine 2.0 is like waiting for the ship to hit an iceberg and then sending out rescue boats. Medicine 3.0 is like having radar and weather reports to see the icebergs far away and carefully steering the ship around them to avoid danger completely. But Medicine 3.0 needs something important from you. You cannot just be a passenger on the ship. You need to be the captain. You need to learn about your own health, understand your goals, and be willing to make changes. You need to work with your doctor to navigate your journey. It requires more effort, but the reward is a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life. You are in charge of steering your ship away from the icebergs. Chapter 4: Problems with Food. Our bodies are like amazing machines. They take the food we eat and turn it into energy and building blocks to keep us running. This whole process is called metabolism. When your metabolism is working well, you feel good, have energy, and stay healthy. But when things go wrong with metabolism, it can cause serious problems. Many health problems today start with our metabolism not working correctly. A big reason for this is the way we eat. Our bodies are very good at storing energy from food. A long time ago, this was very helpful. Food wasn't always easy to find. Being able to store energy as fat meant people could survive when there wasn't much food available. But today, especially in many parts of the world, food is everywhere. We can get high-calorie food easily and cheaply anytime we want. Our bodies haven't changed much, but our food environment has changed completely. We now eat much more energy than our bodies were designed to handle easily. What happens when we eat too much energy, especially from certain kinds of foods? Our body tries to store it. The safest place to store extra energy is in fat tissue just under our skin. This is normal. But if we keep eating too much, these storage places get full. It's like a bathtub filling up with water. If you keep the tap running after the tub is full, the water spills out onto the floor. When our fat storage is full, the extra energy, often turned into fat, starts spilling over into places it shouldn't go. It can build up in our liver. This is called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or NAFLD. It means your liver is getting fatty even if you don't drink alcohol. This fat in the liver can cause inflammation, which is like a silent irritation that damages the liver over time. Fat can also build up around our organs deep inside our belly. This visceral fat is more dangerous than the fat under our skin. It releases chemicals that cause inflammation throughout the body. This whole situation, too much energy, fat spilling over, inflammation, leads to problems with how our body handles sugar. Normally, a hormone called insulin helps move sugar, glucose, from our blood into our cells for energy. But when fat builds up in places like our muscles, the cells stop listening to insulin properly. This is called insulin resistance. To overcome this, the body makes even more insulin. For a while, this keeps blood sugar normal, but the high insulin levels cause other problems, like encouraging more fat storage and potentially helping some diseases grow. Eventually, the body can't keep up, and blood sugar starts to rise. This is the path towards type 2 diabetes. All these issues, fatty liver, visceral fat, insulin resistance, high blood sugar, are part of what doctors call metabolic dysfunction or metabolic syndrome. It's not just about being overweight. Thin people can also have metabolic dysfunction if their bodies aren't handling energy well, perhaps because their personal fat bathtub is smaller. What matters most is not just your weight, but how healthy your metabolism is. Why is this so important? Because poor metabolic health doesn't just lead to diabetes. It greatly increases your risk for all the other 4 horsemen diseases too: heart disease, cancer, and brain diseases like Alzheimer's. Fixing our metabolism is a key step in living a longer, healthier life. Chapter 5. Your heart and blood. Heart disease is the #1 cause of death in many parts of the world. It kills more people than cancer. When we talk about heart disease, we usually mean problems with the blood vessels that supply blood to the heart muscle itself, and also the vessels that go to the brain, which can cause a stroke. Doctors call this atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, or ASCVD. Many people think heart disease happens suddenly, like a heart attack that comes out of nowhere. But the truth is, ASCVD develops very, very slowly, usually over many decades. The problems inside the blood vessels often start when people are quite young, maybe even in their teenage years or 20s, long before they feel anything is wrong. What causes these problems? For a long time, people blamed cholesterol, especially the cholesterol found in foods like eggs or meat. We were told to eat less cholesterol to protect our hearts, but we now know this is mostly wrong. The cholesterol we eat in food doesn't have a big effect on the cholesterol in our blood for most people. Our body, especially our liver, makes most of the cholesterol it needs. Cholesterol itself is actually very important. We need it to build cells and make hormones. The real problem isn't the cholesterol itself, but how it's carried around in our blood. Cholesterol is fatty and blood is watery, so they don't mix. Cholesterol needs special carriers to travel in the bloodstream. These carriers are tiny balls made of fat and protein called lipoproteins. You might have heard of LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol, and HDL cholesterol, good cholesterol. These names are too simple. LDL and HDL are just 2 types of lipoprotein carriers. What really matters is a specific protein marker found on some of these carriers, called apolipoprotein B, or ApoB for short. All the types of lipoprotein particles that seem to cause problems in our arteries have this ApoB marker. HDL particles have a different marker, ApoA. Heart disease starts when these ApoB particles, mostly LDL particles, get into the wall of our blood vessels. Blood vessels have a delicate inner lining. If this lining gets damaged, for example, by high blood pressure or smoking, or if there are just too many ApoB particles floating around, some particles can slip through the lining and get stuck inside the artery wall. Once stuck, these particles can change and cause inflammation. The body's immune system tries to clean them up, but this process can actually make things worse, leading to the buildup of fatty streaks and eventually hard bumps called plaques inside the artery wall. These plaques can grow slowly over years, narrowing the space for blood to flow. If a plaque breaks open, it can cause a blood clot to form, which can suddenly block the artery completely. This is what causes a heart attack if it happens in the heart, or a stroke if it happens in the brain. Because this process is so slow, we need to think about prevention very early. Waiting until middle age might be too late. The standard cholesterol tests that check LDL and HDL levels don't give us the full picture. We need better tests that measure the number of those risky ApoB particles directly. Another important particle to test for is called lipoprotein A or LP. A, which is a particularly dangerous type of ApoB particle that many people inherit genetically without knowing it. Preventing heart disease means lowering the number of ApoB particles in our blood as much as possible, starting as early as possible. It also means keeping our blood pressure healthy, not smoking, and maintaining good metabolic health, because things like high insulin and inflammation also contribute to the problem. We have good medicines like statins that can help lower ApoB particles, but lifestyle changes are also crucial. Heart disease is a major killer, but it is largely preventable if we act early and strategically. Chapter 6: Fighting Bad Cells. Cancer is the second biggest cause of death after heart disease. It's a word that scares many people, and for good reason. Cancer occurs when some of the cells in our own body start to behave wrongly. Normal cells grow and divide when the body needs them to, and they stop when they are told to. They also stay in their proper place. Cancer cells are different in two main ways. First, they don't stop growing and dividing even when they should. They ignore the body's signals. Second, they can travel away from where they started and grow in other parts of the body. This spreading is called metastasis. When cancer stays in one place like a small lump, doctors can often treat it successfully, perhaps with surgery to remove it or radiation to kill the cells. The problem is when cancer metastasizes. If cancer cells from the breast travel to the lungs, for example, it becomes much harder to treat. Most deaths from cancer happen because the cancer has spread. One reason cancer is so hard to fight is that it's not just one disease. There are many types of cancer: breast cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer, leukemia, and so on. Even two people with the same type of cancer, like breast cancer, might have tumors that are very different at the level of their genes. Cancer cells develop changes, called mutations, in their DNA. These mutations are what make them behave wrongly. but each person's cancer can have hundreds of different mutations, making it very complex. For many years, the main way to treat cancer that had spread was chemotherapy. These are strong drugs that kill cells that are dividing quickly. Because cancer cells divide a lot, chemotherapy harms them more than most normal cells. But it also harms healthy cells that divide quickly, like hair cells or cells lining the mouth and stomach. This is why chemotherapy often causes side effects like hair loss, nausea, and mouth sores. And sometimes the cancer cells that survive chemotherapy become even stronger and harder to kill. So, what's the best plan against cancer? It has three main parts. 1. Prevention. The best way to beat cancer is to not get it in the first place. We know some things definitely increase cancer risk, like smoking. Quitting smoking or never starting is the single best thing you can do. Keeping your metabolism healthy is also very important, as problems like obesity and insulin resistance are linked to a higher risk of many cancers. Avoiding too much alcohol and protecting your skin from the sun also helps. 2. Early detection. Finding cancer early, before it has grown large or spread, makes treatment much more likely to work. This is why screening tests are so important. Examples include mammograms for breast cancer, colonoscopies for colon cancer, pap smears for cervical cancer, and sometimes CT scans for lung cancer, especially for smokers. Finding cancer when it's small means there are fewer cancer cells to deal with, and they probably haven't spread yet. New tests are being developed, like liquid biopsies, which look for tiny bits of cancer DNA in a blood sample. These might help us find cancers even earlier in the future. 3. Better treatments. Scientists are working hard to find better ways to treat cancer, especially cancer that has spread. One exciting area is immunotherapy. This uses the body's own immune system, its natural defense force, to find and kill cancer cells. Cancer cells are clever and often hide from the immune system. Immunotherapy drugs help the immune system recognize the cancer cells as enemies and attack them. Immunotherapy doesn't work for everyone or every type of cancer yet, but when it does work, it can sometimes lead to long-lasting cures, even for advanced cancers. Researchers are also looking at targeting the specific ways cancer cells use energy, their metabolism, as another way to fight them. Fighting cancer is tough, but there is more hope now than ever before. By focusing on prevention, finding cancers early through screening, and using smarter treatments like immunotherapy, we can continue to make progress against this difficult disease. Chapter 7. Keeping your mind sharp. As people get older, many worry about losing their memory or their ability to think clearly. There are several diseases that affect the brain and cause these kinds of problems. The most common one is Alzheimer's disease. Others include Parkinson's disease, which mainly affects movement but also thinking, and Lewy body dementia. Doctors group these under the name neurodegenerative diseases, meaning they involve damage and loss of brain cells over time. These brain diseases are another one of the four horsemen. For many people, the fear of losing their mind, their memories, their personality, their self, is even greater than the fear of heart disease or cancer. Like heart disease and cancer, these brain diseases usually develop very slowly. The changes in the brain can start 10, 20, or even 30 years before the person or their family notices any serious problems with memory or thinking. Early signs might be subtle, like forgetting common words more often or having a bit more trouble planning things. But often, the disease isn't diagnosed until the symptoms are more obvious. What causes these diseases? We don't fully understand them yet, which makes them very difficult to treat. For Alzheimer's disease, for many years scientists focused on sticky clumps of protein called amyloid plaques that build up in the brain. They thought if they could get rid of the amyloid, they could cure the disease. But many drugs designed to remove amyloid have failed to help people's memory or stop the disease from getting worse. This suggests that amyloid might be part of the story, but maybe not the main cause for everyone, especially for the common type of Alzheimer's that starts later in life. Some scientists now think that other problems might be more important drivers of diseases like Alzheimer's. Two big areas of interest are: 1. Problems with blood flow to the brain. The brain needs a huge amount of oxygen and energy, delivered by a dense network of tiny blood vessels. If these blood vessels get damaged or narrowed, similar to what happens in heart disease, the brain doesn't get enough fuel. This can damage brain cells over time. Many things that are bad for heart health, like high blood pressure or smoking, also seem to increase the risk of dementia. Keeping your blood vessels healthy seems to be good for your brain too. 2. Problems with how the brain uses energy, especially sugar, glucose. The brain uses a lot of glucose for fuel. If the brain cells become resistant to insulin, similar to what happens in type 2 diabetes, or can't use glucose properly, they might not get enough energy. This energy crisis can also lead to brain cell damage. People with diabetes or metabolic problems have a much higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. Genetics also play a role. A gene called APOE is important. We all have 2 copies of the APOE gene, and they come in 3 main versions: E2, E3, and E4. Having 1 or 2 copies of the APOE E4 version significantly increases the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. The E4 version seems to make problems with cholesterol transport in the brain and glucose use worse. However, having the E4 gene doesn't mean you will definitely get Alzheimer's. Many people with E4 stay sharp, and many people without E4 still develop the disease. It's a risk factor, not a guarantee. Since we don't have good treatments to cure these diseases once they start, the best strategy is prevention. Just like with heart disease, we need to act early, decades before symptoms might appear. What can we do? The good news is that many of the things that help prevent heart disease and metabolic problems also seem to help protect the brain. This includes keeping your blood vessels healthy, controlling blood pressure, not smoking, managing cholesterol/ApoB, maintaining good metabolic health, keeping blood sugar stable, avoiding insulin resistance. Exercise. This is probably the single most important thing. Exercise helps blood flow, improves metabolism, and even helps the brain grow healthy connections. Both endurance exercise and strength training seem to protect brain health. Getting enough good quality sleep. Sleep is when the brain cleans itself and organizes memories. Poor sleep is strongly linked to higher dementia risk. Managing stress. Chronic stress can harm the brain. Staying socially connected and mentally active might also help build cognitive reserve, making the brain more resilient. Preventing brain diseases requires a long-term plan, starting early. By taking care of our overall health, our heart, our metabolism, our body, and our mind, we give ourselves the best chance of keeping our brains sharp well into old age. Chapter 8. Your plan for a long, good life. We've talked about the big health problems that affect many people as they get older, the 4 horsemen of heart disease, cancer, brain diseases, and metabolic problems like diabetes. We've seen that traditional medicine often waits until these problems are already causing trouble before stepping in. But we've also learned about a new approach, Medicine 3.0, which focuses on preventing these problems long before they start. The goal isn't just to live longer, but to live better for longer, to have a long and healthy health span. So, how do we do this? How do we make a plan to increase our chances of staying healthy, active, and sharp well into our later years? It's not about finding one magic pill or a secret diet. It's about building a solid foundation for health by working consistently in several key areas of our lives. Think of it like building a strong house. You need a good foundation, strong walls, and a solid roof. What are the main pillars of this long, healthy life plan? Based on what science tells us, there are 4 main areas we need to focus on. We can think of these as our main tools or tactics. 1. Exercise. This might be the most powerful tool we have. Regular exercise helps prevent almost all the major chronic diseases. It keeps our heart and blood vessels healthy, helps maintain a healthy metabolism, strengthens our bones, and is incredibly important for keeping our brains sharp. But exercise isn't just one thing. Our plan needs to include different types. Exercise for endurance like Zone 2 training, exercise for peak fitness like VO2 max work, exercise for strength, lifting weights safely, and exercise for stability, moving well to avoid injury. 2. Nutrition. What we eat clearly matters, but maybe not in the way most diets suggest. Instead of following strict food rules or trendy diets, we need to understand our own nutritional biochemistry. This means figuring out how much energy, calories our body needs, making sure we get enough protein to keep our muscles strong, choosing healthy fats, and managing carbohydrates in a way that keeps our metabolism healthy. Using tools like CGM can help here. The goal is to find an eating pattern that works for your body and that you can stick with long-term, not just a temporary diet. 3. Sleep. We often ignore sleep, but it's absolutely essential for good health. Our body and brain do critical repair work while we sleep. Good quality sleep helps regulate our metabolism, keeps our immune system strong, manages stress hormones, helps our memory, and even cleans waste products out of our brain. Most adults need around 8 hours of quality sleep per night. Creating a good sleep environment, dark, cool, quiet, and healthy sleep habits is crucial. 4. Emotional health. Living a long life isn't much good if we are unhappy, angry, or feel disconnected. Our emotional well-being is deeply connected to our physical health. Chronic stress, anxiety, or depression can harm our bodies in many ways, increasing the risk of heart disease and possibly even dementia. Taking care of our emotional health might involve therapy, stress management techniques like meditation or mindfulness, building strong relationships, and finding purpose in life. It's just as important as taking care of our physical body. These four areas, exercise, food, sleep, and emotional health, are all connected. Poor sleep can affect your metabolism and mood. Poor emotional health can make it hard to exercise or eat well. Good exercise can improve sleep and mood. The most important thing is to realize that you have the power to influence your health journey. You don't have to just wait and see what happens. By making a proactive plan and working consistently in these four key areas, you can change your trajectory. You can significantly increase your chances of living not just a longer life, but a much healthier, happier, and more active one. It's not about making huge, drastic changes overnight. It's about making small, smart, sustainable changes and building on them over time, starting today. What is the first small change you plan to make for a longer, healthier life after hearing this?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.